Okay, good evening, everybody. It's nice to see you all. Thank you for coming. I'm very, very privileged to be here today to talk on a subject of creation, evolution, a subject I've got a great deal of passion in, absolutely loads. I've been told, apparently you had a very famous speaker called Ken Ham who came to your town a couple of years ago. I just wondered how many people came to that talk? Okay, that's a good. Not much competition, good. And how many didn't? Okay, that's odd. Some of you didn't raise your hand, so either one of them. How many are confused about the question so far? Okay, we're all doing fine. Now, okay, I'm told because some of you are apparently familiar with this subject to make sure that I'm very advanced in my discussion, and also apparently some of you are not very familiar, so I'm supposed to be also very simple at the same time. So I'm hoping that I won't disappoint all of you today. Right, just so that you know, my name is John Harris. I am Lebanese. I've come all the way from Lebanon to be here today. Okay, I've been here for over 25 years now. It's a great place to be. I just wonder how many people are from Congleton here? Show of hands, Congleton. And, all right, and how many from Newark? Okay, you're slightly outnumbered. And, and how many who come from different places? Other than Congleton and Newark. Okay, that's fantastic. Well, I'm sure none of you came from as far as Newark, which is nearly 100 miles from here. Right, just so that you know, for some people, depending on how you drive to get here. So that you know, I lived between the age of 7 and 17. I was brought up in Lebanon. Between the age of 7 and 17, I lived in the middle of civil war. It was me dodging bullets, bombs, and snipers. That was great fun. Not recommended at all. I'm going to be sharing more about this tomorrow night, so I hope you can make it for tomorrow night. So I had pretty much a rough upbringing. But I used to love science, and I wanted to read about science all the time. I spent all my time reading my books, science books. I had many, and when I ran out, I used to use my sister's science books, and she's 3 years ahead of me. It was absolutely fantastic. I used to do loads of experiments, and you have to understand, in Lebanon, the environment is such that you can use things like gunpowder to do experiments. I stopped doing that now. I don't do that anymore. I haven't done it for weeks. I'm running my own business. I'm the MD of my own business. I've been running a business for 15 years, as been mentioned by Andrew. And basically, I write software programs. I write in many different languages. I write them in COBOL, Clipper, machine code, assembler, BASIC, HTML, JavaScript, and so on. Well, if none of this makes any sense to you, it doesn't matter. It's not important for today. I'm just showing off, so bear with me. I have been doing this for a couple of years, and I put together a course called Discovery Night that's suitable for churches, suitable for schools. So if anybody's interested in the subject, talk to me later. Basically, the subject talks about the truths in the Bible and also what evidence there is, if any, that supports evolution theory. People want to know the facts, and they want to know where it all comes and it's put together. So today, I'm going to assume that you know absolutely very little about this subject. So I'm going to start right from the beginning to make it very easy for people to follow. So here, and 2 hours, unfortunately, or 2 sessions of 45 minutes doesn't do the subject any justice. So if you need to know a little bit more about any particular subject, we'll have to talk. I'll have to come back again and cover those. Let's start. There are basically two worldviews about how the universe started and how life started, okay? It's either that God did it, that means there is a creator, or that means intelligent design, or that it was by evolution, self-created, it's purely by chance, and basically we are God under those circumstances. Of course, there are going to be some people today who are going to say we came from aliens. You're probably right. I don't believe in it, but some people do look like they're aliens. In fact, I think I recognize those faces. I think they could be with us today. So if your picture is up there, can you just stand up? Can you just stand up if your picture is up there? I'm sure I've seen you guys. Oh, there you go. Just turn around so people can look like what you normally look like. This is what they normally look like. That's my daughter, and that's my niece. They did not pose for this picture. I actually found them by accident and put it up there to surprise them. And this is what they look like when they wake up in the morning. All right. As far as I'm concerned, I hold the view, without apology, the creationist worldview, that the world is too complex that it had to be created by an all-wise, all-powerful creator who is outside of and beyond and above and not affected by his creation. And it's also my studied opinion that the Bible is the infallible, inspired, inerrant word of the living God. The original creation was perfect and much different than it is today. The original creation, plants and animals lived longer and grew larger than they do today. The Bible says, in the beginning, God. That's where everything starts. The Bible tells us in Genesis that God made everything within 6 days. That means 6,000 years ago, he created everything. 4,400 years ago, the flood. And then 2,000 years ago, the birth of Jesus. And here we are today. So that's creation 6,000 years ago, the global flood 4,400 years ago, 2,000 years ago, Jesus, and here we are today. Now, the evolutionists say, in the beginning was dirt or slime. So that's 20 billion years ago. That's the Big Bang. That's how it started, according to the evolutionists. 4.6 billion years ago, the Earth forms. 3 billion years ago, life starts, and here we are today. So obviously, these two charts are not to scale, because if they were to scale, the bottom one would be 3 million times larger. That's a lot larger. So that's about 1.5 meters wide. So that means if we made the bottom one to the scale of the top one, it would be 2,800 miles long. Now, that is as far as from here to Canada. I measured this properly. Can you see it from where you are? This is from here to Canada. I don't think that Andrew would ever want to buy a screen that large. Okay? It will make my talk a lot easier, but I don't think you would really want to do this. So these are worlds apart. These two theories are worlds apart. They are not compatible, and they don't work with each other. All right? They are opposing views. How do we know creation is 6,000 years old? How do we know this? Well, we figure this out from the generations mentioned in the Bible. For example, the Bible says that Adam was 130 when he had Seth, and Seth was 105 when he had Enos, and Enos was 90 when he had Canaan, and so on. So if you put them all together, we get roughly about 4,000 BC. That's 6,000 years ago. The first person, or one of the people who actually did the number crunching on this, is a guy called James Ussher. He lived in the 17th century, and he worked it out as accurately as you can possibly do these things. There are a lot of space for errors, but roughly about 4,400 BC. I'm sure he wasn't that accurate, but we're saying the Bible says the world is 6,000 years old, versus the evolutionists who say 20 billion years old, or billions of years. I want to make very clear where the views stand on this. So what happened during the flood? About 4,400 years ago, there was a global flood, not a local one. And during this flood, everyone dies except for Noah, his children, and their wives, and all the animals that were in the ark. People, plants, and animals outside the ark all died and got buried. What happened is that the waters were rushing back and forth, and the Bible refers to this as assuage. The crust of the earth dropped, the water rushed down. That's where the water came down from under the crust. It came out, the crust collapsed, and all the water went back in again. It caused a principle called hydrologic sorting. Now, hydrologic sorting is the principle of, if you had a jar of water and you put some sand in it and you shake it really well, and then you let it settle, it will produce layers for you. That's called hydrologic sorting. The water is capable of sorting those sand or rubble or whatever dirt you've got in this jar into layers. So what happened during the flood is that you had animals trapped within those layers. That's the creationist worldview. That's how it all happened. And this happened over just about a year. You see, when the flood occurred, it wasn't just 40 days and 40 nights. What happened is that it was extended over the whole year period. Okay, there was a whole year period where Noah was on the ark waiting for the water to settle down so he can come out. During that time is when all of this took place. After the year's period, Noah came out of the ark, and he basically had to repopulate the world along with his children and the animals that were in the ark. That is how we get things called petrified plants and fossils. Okay, that's why we get coal. That's how we get natural gases. Oil and natural gases, for example, come from fish and reptiles and animals buried under heat and pressure conditions. Let me give you a quick explanation about what fossilization is and petrification. I thought if I get a few terminologies right before we start, I haven't even started yet. So I'm just going to go through a few things here. This subject is so complicated. If you don't get the basis right, you can't follow later on what's coming on. Fossilization is when you have a trace or a part of a body in a fossil, in a stone, in a rock, or even ice, if you got a trace of it, and usually you get the outline of it. That's what happens when you have fossilization. And you can even have footprints or fingerprints. And of course you need water and sediments because you're doing replacement of minerals. So you need water and you need sediments for this. Now petrification is when a fossil turns into stone. All right, so that's quite easy. It happens when you get a fossil buried, you get mineral replacement, and generally to get petrification, you need to replace it with quartz minerals, or pyrite, as they call it. Scientists don't always use these terminologies correctly. Normally they say fossilization when they mean petrification. All right, so don't be confused about this. Petrification is when it turns into stone. Fossilization is supposed to be like an imprint. But they use those words, they interchange between them, and you're supposed to guess what they mean. And you can fossilize and petrify just about anything, even material like this teddy bear that you can see up there. So you need water, you need sediments, you need mineral replacements, and that's how it happens. Here's the thing. Surprisingly, not many people know what is meant when people talk about evolution. What is meant? Most people think that evolution basically means a variation within a kind. Okay, so when somebody says something has evolved, you think they're talking about a variation within one kind of animal. But when TV programs are telling you about evolution, when museums are advertising this, they are not talking about the same thing. They're trying to tell you that an animal can change from one kind to something else completely. Like we talk about evolution, we talk about a different variety of dogs. Big dog, small dog, black dog, white dog, clever dog, stupid dog, hot dog, something like that. Of course, not hot dog. But they're talking about a dog producing something other than a dog, like a cat. Now, there's a big difference between dogs and cats. If you can't tell the difference, you need to tell somebody, someone professional, ideally. It's actually worse than that. They're trying to tell you that everything is related. We are even related to plants. Let me just read this for you. Charles Darwin, this is what he said. It's truly wonderful fact that all animals and all plants throughout all time and space should be related to each other. So what he's saying is that all plants and animals are related to each other. That's what he's suggesting, isn't he? He's saying that a flower and a donkey are actually related to each other. This is not a scientific fact. We don't have any proof for it. And this statement is made everywhere. This is the kind of statement you see in textbooks. You see it creeping up on you absolutely everywhere. You see, evolutionists and creationists are looking at the same thing. They're coming up with different conclusions. I remember when I was 15, when I was young, and I was going to school. I even remember which school this was in. A friend came to me. He knew that I loved science a lot. So he came to me and said, John, I'm going to tell you this story. They've done a scientific experiment I'm going to tell you about. And I thought, that's amazing. I love all these things. So off you go. So he was telling me, John, look, scientists got together and got a grasshopper. They got this grasshopper. You know how grasshoppers got 2 legs and it jumps really far. So he got a grasshopper, and they told the grasshopper to jump. Hop, grasshopper, they told it, and off it went hopping. It hopped beautifully. They brought the grasshopper back, put it back on the bench, and took 1 leg off. And they told the grasshopper to hop. Hop, grasshopper. And lo and behold, it hopped again with 1 leg. It didn't hop as far, but it certainly did hop. Then they brought it back. They took the last leg off. They pulled it out. You have to understand, in Lebanon, this was well before animal rights, okay? And people really didn't care about human beings. So it didn't really matter if they took these things off, these legs. So they took the last leg off, put it on the bench, and they said, hop, grasshopper. And of course, it didn't move. So they said, hop, grasshopper, hop. And it didn't move again. So they came to the conclusion that when you pull all the legs from a grasshopper, it goes deaf. So this is the thing. 2 people can look at the same evidence and come up with different conclusions. Here's an example of this. For example, evolutionists say that all the layers in places like the Grand Canyon happened over millions of years. Now, the creationists say that this happened during the global flood. They are so convinced that these layers happened over time, they even called them different names. They've got names for it, as you can see. And they named them after places in England where they've been digging and found them. That's what they did. The only place you can find this geologic column is in textbooks, and they're in the complete set. Nowhere can you find them in reality. But if you did, in reality, they've looked around, and the average thickness is 1 mile when it should be between 1 and 200 miles thick. The average thickness across the world is 1 mile thick. But if they really could find them in its entirety, it should be between 1 and 200 miles. So they have to cheat and get them from different places and stack them on top of each other to make this work. Now, if you ask the evolutionists, they tell you they have plenty of places where these layers exist. The truth is what they have is layers with fossils in the order they expect them to be. That's what they find at best. The only place you'll find the geologic column in perfect tact is in the imagination. It doesn't exist anywhere else. It is true that these layers do exist, but the question is, how did they get there? If each of these layers are of different age, shouldn't there be erosions between them? It should have rained once in a while, don't you think? Yeah, it should have happened. If these layers are of a different age, shouldn't there be a soil between each one of those layers? This is a case of grasshopper hop, you know? So they come up with the wrong conclusion. Another reason why they say these layers are not millions of years apart, another reason we know it's not millions of years apart is because they found something called polystrata fossils that go right across the layers. You would think that the fossils would actually rot away by the time millions of years went by and more layers went on top. Still, hop, grasshopper, hop. I have many more examples about polystrata layers. I can't go through them today. This is not about that today. This textbook says if there were a column of sediments, unfortunately no such column exists. So it doesn't exist anywhere, it's made up. And evolutionists need to use this in order for them to create that time and overrule the global flood. That's very important to them. So where did this idea come from? This whole idea started by a guy called Charles Lyell in 1830. And he wrote a book called Principles of Geology. Charles Lyell hated the Bible. He absolutely hated the Bible, and he mocked the Scripture all the time. All he wanted to do is to discredit the Bible. So much for a scientific book. He hates the Bible, and every statement in this book oozes hate. Let me show you a few examples. Charles Lyell said in page 30, he said, "They reach false conclusions, futile reasoning, ancient doctrines sanctioned by implicit faith of many generations and supposed to rest on scriptural authority." Here's a backhanded dig on the Bible for those who dared to believe in the Bible. On page 41, he said, "The interest of religion as well as those of sound philosophy had suffered." Stop there. What is he saying here? He's saying that you can't have religion and sound philosophy. Is that what he's saying? That's what he's implying. Then he says, "By perpetually mixing up the sacred writings with questions in physical science," he's trying to make it look like the Bible and science don't get along. The Bible and science get along very well. It's the Bible and evolution that don't get along at all. Next one. He reasoned philosophically against those who regarded the disordered state of the earth's crust as exhibiting signs of the earth of God for the sins of man. Charles Lyell is trying to remove the idea that the flood created these layers because he doesn't want it to represent God's wrath on earth. You see, evolutionists don't want you to see the world like this, because if you did, you might be saved, because you would see something that is different, that's biblical. Page 197, he said, "Accusations founded on religious prejudices." Charles Lyell is saying, if you believe in the Bible, you are a prejudice. Page 302, he said, "Men of superior talents," he's talking about himself, "who thought for themselves and were not blinded by authority," like the Bible. Another backhanded dig here. It says, if you believe in the Bible, you can't think for yourself. That's what he's saying. If you believe in the Bible, you can't think for it. And this happens all the time. If you talk to an evolutionist and you tell them about how the Bible and creation and science fit together, you are told that you can't think for yourself. Okay? That's what happens all the time. They mock you all the time. I get that all the time when I'm doing debates on the internet. It's actually quite laughable until you know the game and you respond to that and you put them in their place. But they do that. They mock you all the time on this subject. Charles Lyell said his goal is to free science from Moses. What a statement to make on a science book, to free science from Moses. Now, most scientists in those days were Christians, and they had no problems with the Bible and science. They had no problem with that. But he wanted to get rid of the Bible and put in millions of years instead of it, right there. So, if this book, which is what people use this is how the geologic column started. This is how the layers started. If you're going to school, you will see that references to this book will be made again and again. If this book was about nothing but science, why did he feel he had to attack the Bible? Why did he feel he had to do that? That won't make sense. That just doesn't, that's not how it should work, surely. His main interest was to attack the Bible. That's what he wanted to do. And it's important for you to know when we're talking about geological columns and those layers, it's come from this source. It's a direct attack on the Bible. That's what they're doing here. He wants you to look at science and find the Bible does not make sense. That's what he's trying to do. He's being very deceitful. Now, interesting enough, the Bible warns us of bad science. In 1 Timothy 6:20, it says, O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings and oppositions of science falsely so called. You know what? I like science. But science falsely so called is where the evolution fits in. And the Bible has already warned us of this because it's written by God and he knows what was going to come. So the first question about the subject of creation evolution is why even ask the question? What's the big deal anyway? So what if people believed in evolution? That's because evolution is not just bad science. You need to understand this. Evolution is not just bad science. It is actually a religion. Now, most people don't recognize this because most people recognize that a religion, like, for example, they know the difference between Christianity, Buddha, Islam, or any kind of Jehovah's Witness, Mormon, any kind of that, you recognize it as a religion. But because evolution is under the heading of science, most people don't recognize we're dealing with religion attributes here. And it has nothing to do with science. You'll see in a minute. So here are the facts. If evolution is true, you need to hear this. If evolution is true, then the Bible is wrong. There is no middle ground here. What does evolutionists say? Evolutionists say the world was billions of years old. Life started 3.5 billion years ago. Many deaths took place, and then came along Adam. That's what evolution says. What does the Bible say? The Bible says that it started a few thousand years ago. Adam was created, and sin came through Adam. That means death only started after Adam sinned. All right? Can you see the opposing views here? It's completely the opposite. There is no way of marrying those two together. One of them, the hero of the plot, is death in order for Adam to come into the scene. And the other one is Adam came into the scene, and sin brought death into the world. We need to see the difference here. Do not try to connect them. They cannot be married in any way whatsoever. Before we go any further, because I haven't started yet, I need to get a few terminologies right here. And that's important, especially if you're discussing this subject with someone who pretends to know this subject. Here's a quick summary. There are several different types of evolution. There is cosmic evolution, which means the origin of time, space, and matter. There is chemical evolution. That's the origin of higher elements from hydrogen. We're going to come to that in a few seconds. Then you got stellar and planetary evolution, which is the origin of stars and planets. Then you got organic evolution, which is the origin of life. Then you got macroevolution. This is life forms changing from one kind to something completely different. And then you got microevolution. That's a variation within a kind. There are 6 meanings of evolution. Please follow this. This is important if you ever want to bring this up and discuss this. 6 meanings of evolution. Now we're going to examine each one of those very briefly because one way or another today you will learn something new. I can expand on any one of those subjects later on, but we're going to go as brief as I can possibly go. According to the Webster's Dictionary, science means systemized knowledge derived from observation, study, and experimentation. Let's not get confused. That's what science means, all right? And that means it's something you observe, you test, you can demonstrate. It's very important. Okay, what does religion mean? Again, according to the same dictionary, it's a set of beliefs concerning the cause, nature, and purpose of universe. That's interesting, right? That means how did it start? Why did it start? And what was it? All right? That's very important. You need to understand that. Right, we're going to start now. We're going to start with cosmic evolution. Cosmic evolution is the origin of time, space, and matter. The evolutionists refer to this as the Big Bang. This textbook says 18 to 20 billion years ago, all the matters in the universe was concentrated into one very dense, very hot region that may have been much smaller than a period in this page. For some unknown reason, the region exploded. The explosion is called the Big Bang. Wow, that's the Big Bang. You see, That's not the only idea they came up with. They came up with the idea of the Big Bang. They came up with oscillating universe. Oscillating universe is something that it expands and then shrinks and expands and shrinks again. They call that the oscillating universe. They came up with the idea called steady state universe. That's the idea that it's self-generating. This is a universe that doesn't need any of these things. It's just self-perpetuating, self-generating. So who's right? Well, actually none of them if you believe in the string theory that comes along with membranes. So something tells me I don't think they know. Okay, they've come up with all these theories because they haven't really got an idea. That's because God is not allowed to be part of the answer. Okay, so how would they ever get the right answer if God is not allowed to be part of the answer and God did it? How would that work out? They will never get there. The Big Bang was suggested by a Belgian faithful priest, bless him, and astronomer called Georges Edward Lemaitre. He's the guy who started this idea of. He called it, listen to this, the cosmic egg exploding at the moment of creation. That's his title for what he thinks happened. In 1927, Lemaitre said the universe is few light years in diameter. That's about 12 trillion miles. That's what he said in 1927. In 65, reduced to 275 miles. In 72, he reduced that to 71 miles. And in 1983, he reduced it to a trillionth the diameter of a proton. And now it's absolutely nothing at all. It's reduced to nothing at all. They call this a singularity. This is how it's evolved. Even the theory is evolved. Einstein commented on Lemaitre. He said, your math is correct, but your physics is abominable. Einstein was not impressed. I think it has something to do with the fact that his physics was abominable. Sir Fred Hoyle, he's an astronomer, cosmologist, and a mathematician in Cambridge University. He said on BBC Radio, you mean what? Like the Big Bang? What he was doing, he was taking the mickey. He was on radio, he was being interviewed, and he said, what, you mean like the Big Bang? He was mocking it. He was taking the mickey. And he coined the phrase, that's how it started. So the Big Bang is a mickey-taking statement. It wasn't supposed to be a scientific statement. He was taking the mickey, he was making fun of it on radio. And it stuck with this theory. That's how they came to the word Big Bang. This textbook says, after many billions of years, all the matter and energy will once again be packed into a small area. This area may be no larger than the period at the end of this sentence. Then another Big Bang will occur. A Big Bang may occur once every 80 to 100 billion years. How did he know that? How did he know that? Is this science or did he just believe it? How can you prove or disprove something like that? You might as well just make up something outrageous. Make an idea which is even more outrageous. Although you can't really, that's just outrageous as it gets. So, apparently everything started from absolutely nothing. Everything started from absolutely nothing. This textbook says nothing means nothing. Got it? From this state of nothingness, the universe began in a gigantic explosion. And just in case you guys are confused with the idea of nothingness, watch this. Discover magazine brought out this article in April 2002. The universe burst into something from absolutely nothing, zero, nada, and as it got bigger, it became filled with even more stuff that came from absolutely nowhere. How is that possible? Ask Alan Guth. His theory of inflation, it helps explain everything. So that's great. Alan Guth has got all the answers. Let's go and ask Alan Guth. What does he say? He says the observable universe could have evolved from an infinitesimal region, that means a dot. It's then tempting to go one step further and speculate that the entire universe evolved from literally nothing. You see, that's not really funny. If I said that the universe came from an intelligent creator, I'll be called religious. But he goes on and makes a statement like that. Where's the science in that statement? There is no science. So let's get this right. Nothing, absolutely nothing, created everything. So it seems to me that the Big Bang is like a spoiled brat who wants absolutely everything for nothing. So the Big Bang is nothing but a big spoiled brat. It is not scientific, and it's in science books. Even more important than that, it breaks every single law of physics. It breaks, where did the energy come from? Where did the material come from? Where did the information come from? It breaks every single laws of physics. The first, I'm going to go through a couple of those. The first law of thermodynamics says this: matter or energy cannot be created or destroyed, okay? So if you take a piece of wood and you want to completely make it disappear, you couldn't. You couldn't make it disappear. What you can do is you can burn it, change it into smoke or ashes. You can't make it completely disappear into thin air. All right? And you cannot create something from thin air. You cannot create something from nothing. That's what the first law of thermodynamics says. You can't create anything, and you cannot destroy anything. Not completely. You can just transfer it, change it to something else. The law applies to energy, it applies to matter, and it applies to bills. You can never get rid of bills. It's true. You can change it from unpaid to paid, but you can never get rid of it. You can also never create bills. Wouldn't you love to create bills and send them to your electricity company? The Big Bang also breaks the law of causality. Causality is the principle that for every event, there is a cause. For example, if a tree collapses because of strong wind, the event is the tree falling, and the cause is the strong wind, the wind that's pushing it down. That's what it means. If you see a computer fly, the event is the computer flying, and the cause is most likely Microsoft Windows crashing again. It's very, you need to get this right. Look, if you have kids, and you tell your kids to do something, and they say why, and you tell them just because, you broke the law of causality. So don't tell them that. Tell them because you say so. So the $6 million question is this. What caused the Big Bang? All right? Okay, we have the event, but what is the cause? And that question is still unanswered. The Big Bang also breaks the second law of thermodynamics. This is the law that says everything tends to go from order to disorder. Scientists know all over the world that the universe is winding down. Now, if the universe is winding down, who wound it up? It must have started somewhere. Who wound it up if it's winding down? Now, because of this law, we all have jobs. Yeah, jobs like painting roofs, fixing roads, fixing your car, fixing the roof of your house. Because of this law, we all have jobs. You know, we're fighting this law all the time. Now, no one goes to bed at night and wakes up looking better, except for my wife, of course. You have to spend hours trying to look good again. Sue, on this screen, no matter how hard she tries, she's going to look like this when she's 90. And just when you think it cannot get worse, it does. No matter how hard you try, you still get older. Now, that's a scientific fact. Now, according to Isaac Asimov, all we have to do is nothing and everything deteriorates, collapses, breaks down, wears out, all by itself, and that is what the second law is all about. So there is nothing you can do about this law. You cannot even break even. It's only going to get worse. So enjoy it while you can. Where did the laws come from? Here's the question. Where did the laws come from? Where did the matter come from? Where did gravity, centrifugal force, and so on? And the list is absolutely huge. So where did these things come from? Big Bang does not answer those questions, and yet we use them as science book. It's a religious statement. Now, evolutionists know all this, but they've got an answer for it. Do you know what the answer is? The law did not exist at the moment of the Big Bang. Brilliant. Get rid of the law. Isn't that great? Oh, look. I've got a great theory, right? But all the laws in the physics goes against it. I'll just get rid of the law. It never occurs to them to get rid of the theory. Okay? Well, that makes sense, right? Get rid of the theory if it doesn't work. That's not funny. It really isn't. Because if I, as much as suggested that there was an intelligent creator behind it all, I would be called religious. And that is what's strange. That's hop, grasshopper, hop. The Big Bang is now in crisis. Now, if you don't believe me, go on the internet, type Big Bang crisis, and you'll see it. This guy says, I have little hesitation in saying that a sickly pal now hangs over the Big Bang theory. I'm going to just tell you a quick story here. As you know, I'm Lebanese. I've come from Lebanon. And we've got this thing where we use to insult people. And if you want to insult somebody dumb in Lebanon, you tell them that they are a donkey. But if they are really dumb and you really want to insult them, you tell them that you are not even a donkey. That apparently is a greater insult. I don't know why. But if you go to somebody who's Lebanese and you tell them you're not even a donkey, you have given him the ultimate insult. Now, it turns out that there is a statement, a scientific statement, that also applies to scientific theories that are very bad. You see, if a scientific theory is bad, they call it a bad theory. But if it's really bad, that it breaks every single law going, they say it's not even wrong. So they call it wrong when it's not right, and when it's really wrong, they say it's not even wrong. Now listen to this. This guy who came up with this is called Wolfgang Pauli. It goes like this. An apparently scientific argument is said to be not even wrong if it's based on assumptions that are known to be incorrect, or alternately, theories which cannot possibly be falsified or used to predict anything. So, if a theory is based on assumptions that are known to be incorrect, or it cannot be falsified because there is no test you can run on it, you cannot predict anything with it, and it breaks every single law going, then it's known as not even wrong. Believe it or not, the Big Bang is now referred to as not even wrong. Why do they even teach it? The Big Bang so far is not even wrong and is a big spoiled brat. This guy says cosmology, cosmic evolution, is not even astrophysics. All the principal assumptions in this field are unverified or unverifiable in the laboratory. Basically, you cannot test the Big Bang or any of its claims. You don't know if it's true or not. Is that science? In a recent paper, the same guy said, because the universe offers no control experiment, i.e. with no independent checks, it is bound to be highly ambiguous and degenerate. And that means substandard. What does that tell us then? It tells us that the Big Bang is not just untrue, it is actually a bad theory. It's a bad theory. Is this what the Bible is competing with? I believe that I know how it all started, and I can cover it in 10 words. And here it is. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Who's counting? 10 words. Did anybody count that? 10 words that explains everything. It says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. This is the very first sentence in the first book of the Bible that tells you how it all happened. You see, let me explain this to you. In the beginning, that's time. God created the heaven, that's space, and then the earth, that's matter. You see, God created time, space, and matter right there in the first verse of the Bible. And you see, something amazing happened. Each one of those has got 3 attributes created by the God of Trinity. So this is the Trinity of Trinity taking place right before your eyes. For example, time is past, present, and future. We got space, which is length, width, and depth. And then we got matter, which is solid, liquid, and gas. And you see, God created all of those things at once, because if he created matter without space, where would he put it? If he created matter without time, when will he put it? So God created all of those things, and he created the law at the same time so that they could exist at the same time. Now, to me, that sounds like a scientific statement. So, what's the bottom line here? Here are the facts. Cosmic evolution is not even wrong. So, scientifically, cosmic evolution, that is the Big Bang, could not have happened, therefore it didn't. So, cosmic evolution is not science. Now, we come to the chemical evolution, which is the origin of higher elements from hydrogen. Basically, most of us should be familiar with this concept, that we have chemicals, elements on Earth. We all know this. Hopefully, you've all studied this. We have about 92 of those that are generated, that are done naturally, and we've got some more that happens through decay, and some others that are made synthetically by man-made chemicals. So they put them all together, around about 118, and they put it on a table called the periodic table. It's very clever stuff. Here we go. Now, you should have learned at school that this is how it works. If you want to make water, for example, you take 2 hydrogen, and you take 1 oxygen element, and you fuse them together, and you create this molecule or a compound we call water. And that's how it works. So from those elements, you can create more or less, well, you create everything that you see around us. And that's it. That's as simple as that. Well, evolutionists will want you to believe that everything started with a Big Bang. Again, everything started with hydrogen and helium, and all the rest came from those 2. That's how it's supposed to have come. All magically evolved. This guy says the Big Bang is presumed to have produced just hydrogen and helium, only 2 of the 92 elements of the Earth's crust. We start with 2 things, and we end up with 92 or more. That's the theory. That's the idea with this. Well, how could that happen? So evolutionists would say that this can happen through something called fusion, all right? This is when 2 or more atoms get together through heat and energy, which is created through a star. So you create fusion within a star, you put more elements together, and you create something new. That's the idea anyway. Here's the interesting thing. Using fusion, you can't get past iron. Iron is element number 26, so it works from top to bottom. That is not even halfway. It doesn't get halfway because it cannot get past iron. You see, the rest of this, there are things like silver, lead, and gold, you know? Obviously, they're all overpriced and we don't want them anyway. But the truth is, they are there, they do exist, so where did they come from? The whole idea is that the star gets so hot when it gets to iron, it gets so hot by the time it gets to the process of ion fusion that it implodes and it explodes again. And that's a known fact. It's an absolute known fact. This guy says, a star will undergo core collapse before achieving fusion of the heavier elements. According to this guy, stars cannot produce the rest of the elements. So where did the rest of the elements come from? This picture will show you the stages of the fusion that can take place. This is common knowledge. If you go on the internet right now, you will see this. It's known fact. Everybody would know this if they were to check it out. This is what they tell you. You find this on the Wikipedia, this very picture. And it says, this is how it goes. It says it starts from hydrogen to helium, to carbon, to neon, to oxygen, to silicon, to iron, and then it collapses. That's it. So where's the rest? Evolutionists know that this business of fusion doesn't go any further, but does it stop them from believing in it? No. That's because it's not science. It's faith. It's a belief. It's hop, grasshopper, hop. So where did it come from? Well, I have a theory. I think it came from an intelligent creator. Now, is that being religious? Well, there is no intelligence in denying facts, right? Here's the bottom line. Chemical evolution is not even wrong. It couldn't have evolved, therefore it didn't. Chemical evolution is not science. So why do we teach our kids this? We're going to come to stars now, and after this we're going to have a break. This is called stellar evolution. Let's have a quick look. This article in Science and Space magazine says that there are 76 sextillion stars in the universe. That's 7 followed by 22 zeros. That's a big, big number. And it says that there are 10 times as many stars as grains of sand on all the world's beaches and deserts. Please try to imagine this. All the sands and grains, the grains of sands across the whole world and all the beaches. There are 10 times more stars than that. That's a lot, right? And that's not all. This part says that's only the stars that we can actually see and know about. There are 70 sextillion stars. Now, the population as of January was 6.5 billion people. That means each one of us, if you work this out, can own 10 trillion stars for yourself. So if you want some stars, get out there and get them. You can have 10 trillion. To give you an understanding of this concept, and this is how it works, apparently somebody's worked out that if a child, the moment they can start counting, they start counting as fast as they can and never stop counting until they die, which, I don't know, 80, 90, 100 years old, they will never reach 1 billion. If you don't believe me, try it. But the truth is, that's a big number. 1 billion is a big number. It's saying you can own 10 trillion. That's 10,000 billion for yourself. Each person can own that. That's how many stars there are out there. Here's another interesting fact. If there are 76 sextillion stars, and the universe is supposed to be 20 billion years old, and listen, I'm being generous here. They say in textbooks about 14.7. I'm being very generous to them. I'm giving them even more time. 20 billion years old. There should be over 6.5 million stars forming not every year, not every month, but every minute. We should see every minute 6.5 million stars forming before our very eyes. Otherwise, we cannot have all the stars we have around us. So how many do we see happening today? How many stars do we see evolving today before our very eyes? None. We see none. They've got telescopes that can see very far. They can see long-distance stars. How many stars do they see using the best telescope they've got? None. They see none. And of course, you'll get the evolution and say, whoa, 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 whoa. We see one forming right now in Crab Nebula. One. But it turns out all it is an area that's dust that's clearing, and there could be a star behind it that's shining through. That's all they have. Of course, one guy would say, wait a minute, it's quite easy. All you've got to do, right, if 20 stars explode next to each other, that creates enough energy and squeezes the gas in such a way you get one star. Brilliant. You lose 20 stars to gain one. That's the dumbest idea ever, and we've never seen it happen. And why can't these guys get a job with the government so that they can get us out of recession using logic like that? Anyway, it's purely theoretical that 20 stars can produce one. It's purely theoretical. We've never seen it. And that's one real good way of losing stars, not gaining them. If you have to lose 20 to gain one, you're going to start losing them. That's not how you gain new stars. It's illogical. Doesn't make sense. It's also interesting that stars sometimes blow up for they run out of fuel or whatever, and they just blow up. And they call this nova. Now, if a big star blows up, they call it the supernova. It seems like every 30 years or so, a star explodes and causes the supernova, and all we will see is the remnant of the ring that goes around it. After searching the heavens for all possible novas and supernovas, all they can find is 300. Now, a universe that's supposedly billions of years old should have more than around 300 supernovas, right? Do you agree with that? That doesn't tell me the universe is old. That tells me the universe is young. One day I'll have to come back and show you evidence of what we have that proves the universe, the earth, and life is young, very young in comparison to evolution, round about the 6,000 years period. I'll love to come back and do that one day. This guy admits, the silent embarrassment of modern astrophysics is that we do not know how even a single one of these stars managed to form. Here's an admission. Despite that, let's see what the British curriculum say we should teach our kids. Our single and double science key stage, that's single and double. I've only showing you the single there, but both of them do the same. It says pupils should be taught how stars evolve over a long time scales. That's what it says we should teach them. So what if they don't evolve? What do they teach them then? Do they still have to teach them? So what's the bottom line? Stellar evolution is not even wrong. We've never seen it happen. Therefore, it's not science. Because we've never seen it happen. All right? So stellar evolution is not science.